Hello, tradeologists. Well, today we're going to start actually determining the stocks. This is one thing that is very, very important for you to profit from Gamma Scalping, is to pick the stock that gives you the highest probability of profit. So in Gamma trading, remember that we want the nearest month options because Gamma is highest in the nearest month and gets higher as we get closer to expiration. We also want options that are close to at the money strikes. So we're going to buy a straddle, which is at the money, because Gamma is highest at the money. And then it fades and gets smaller and smaller as you go in deeper in the money and farther out of the money. So that's the reason we do at the money straddles, is the Gamma is higher, and also we want the front month, in this case, which is the August expiration date, and we want that as well because Gamma gets higher and as we get closer to expiration. So the big issue is picking the right stock or index. Now you can either do an index or you can do a stock, but it's very, very important to pick the correct stock in the beginning. And this is left out of a lot of training programs, exactly how to pick the stock. There's only a couple of people teaching Gamma Scalping, and it's a little bit of a weak area for most people. Fortunately for you, I've come up with a set of criteria that works pretty well. So what you want to do is basically, I have my own watch list here. Now you can use any watch list that you want. Maybe there's particular stocks that you're following. I have my own watch list over here on the left side of the screen, which shows you a number of different issues that I'm following at any one time. There's no I'm not making any recommendations for any of these. I just happen to be following these because they interest me. But you can also, in the Thinkorswim platform, go to a number of different lists, including personal lists or public lists. The public lists are all of the ETFs, the Dows, the futures, the indices, the NASDAQ 100, the Russell 1000. I like to use the top 10 list. The top 10 list, I don't use the percentage gainers, but I like to see the top net gain on the NASDAQ and the top 10 net gain on the NYSE. Why would I use the top 10 gain on the NASDAQ and top 10 gain on the NYSE? Why wouldn't I use the top 10 losers, the net loss or the net loss on the NASDAQ or the net loss on the NYSE? Well, the reason is pretty simple. One of the things that affects the price of a straddle is volatility. If a stock is going down, the price of the volatility of the at-the-money straddle is going to be very high. It will increase volatility for that particular stock and for that straddle. And we don't want to pay a lot of money for the straddles that we're buying. We want to try to get a stock that's going to move quite a bit before expiration. We want it to go up and down. That's the goal. We want it to move as much as possible before the expiration date. In this case, it's August, so it's on 20 days away. And in order for us to pay the least amount of money for a stock that's going to move a lot, what we want is a lower cost of the straddle, and therefore we want a lower volatility. So we always look for the top net gainers or the top on the NASDAQ or on the NYSE. This is the current list of the NASDAQ top gainers for today. There's a couple of issues that I see that I recognize. That's BUCY. I also recognize Google, of course. We're going to immediately eliminate Google because of the price of the stock is $487. And if we're buying 10 contracts of a straddle, that could get pretty expensive to trade those back and forth. Juniper is one that looks like it's moving, and it's a fairly reasonably priced stock. I know Juniper Networks. It looks like they just added another one here, top 10 gainers. But there's a couple of issues here, the CRDN, I think, and others. Now, once we have a potential list of stocks, either the top 10 gainers on the NASDAQ, let's take a look at the top 10 gainers on the NYSE. We don't want the active stocks. We want stocks that are actually moving. So let's take a look at the gainers on the NYSE. I recognize ICE, which is an exchange. There's a couple of others that look quite interesting. But let's go back for a second. I think I see a couple of issues that are potential good candidates for gamma scalping on the NASDAQ. So we want to pick a stock that is going up. That's number one, because we want to pay less for the straddle. If the stock has had a recent large downturn in the market, has a large sell-off recently, that will increase the volatility. Increased volatility increases the cost of the straddle, and that's what we want to avoid. So what we're going to do is just take a look at a couple of issues that are on this list and some others that I found recently. Netflix was one that I was looking at because it's in the news today. But let's take a look at BUCY, which is on the list today. It has had a relatively, what we're looking for in the chart is just to see if it's been in a downturn recently. Well, it was, but it was back in the beginning of July, and it's kind of traded sideways since then. So BUCY could be a pretty good candidate because it has been in a sideways movement here for the last couple of weeks. Let's see what else we have here. Juniper, JNPR. Let's take a look at Juniper. Juniper also has been trading down, but within the last month or so, it's actually been trading in a sideways movement. So volatility probably is relatively low, and it's trading up very, very high today. So that's a potential candidate. Let's take a look at another issue here. CRDN. I'm not familiar with CRDN. This also has had a little bit of a downturn. It had a pretty large downturn since October, but since March it's actually been trading higher. So this is also a potential candidate. Now, what do we do when we find a potential candidate? You know, the chart doesn't look too bad. It looks like it's been in an upturn. Volatility is probably fairly low. So what do we do? So the first thing that we should do is enter the symbol into our trade tab to see what the current near month at the money straddle is selling for. If we take a look at Ceradyne, the current price of the stock is at $44.14, and we can also take a look at the volatility of the current options, which is pretty high. It's on the high side. It's around 60%, the implied volatility. So that will give us a higher price straddle. If we take a look at buying the straddle, which is at the money, it's going to cost us $4.88. The one thing that we need to look at, though, before we even do that, is just to make sure that there's enough volume in the stock itself. If we go back throughout the history of the stock over the last several months, we've noticed that the volume is only about 400 or 500 shares a day. Some days are a little bit higher than others, but the average looks like about 500,000 shares a day. That may not be enough shares that I feel comfortable with in trading. You want a really high liquidity. So let's go back to JNPR. Juniper, on the other hand, trades close to 10, 11, 12, sometimes 20 million shares a day. There's quite a bit of liquidity to Juniper. So let's put in Juniper as a potential candidate in our trade tab and take a look at a current straddle. The current price of the stock is $25.90. So the at the money straddle should be the 26.